Hello and welcome back to my small little library. A long time no see, at least in the Thursdays video department. Yeah, the last little bit of time was a pretty crazy time, but I am finally able to do like a sit down video again. And yeah, I cut my hair short, have a new piercing, which you will have seen in the vlogs. It is too long, so if it looks funny, it's because I need to go get it shortened so it's sitting correctly again, but my appointment is in a week and a half, so I have to be patient till then. So it's gonna look a little bit funny because it's standing out pretty far. So this is going to be a little bit chaotic. I didn't get around to really cataloging my reading, so I did go back and put all of it in Goodreads, but I don't know the exact points where I read the physical reads, and I am actually not quite sure that these are all that I've read. But we're gonna go with the kind of log that I have right now, and we're just gonna hope it's kind of correct with all of the things that I've read in May, actually, even though we are nearly at the end of June already. But I read 4 physical reads, so we're gonna start with those, and then we're gonna get to all of the romance reads, because the romance reads I could actually track because of kind of, they have a list where you can look when you've lent them from the library. But with the physical reads, obviously, I didn't track it, so I don't know when I read it in the month. Sadly, I didn't have a good reading month physically, which, I don't know, it is to be expected at some points, but hopefully that was the last distraction. There was somebody at my door. Let's start with the first book, which was actually a reread, and that was Ninth House by Lee Bardugo. I really like this one. I give it 4 stars, as I did the first time around. This is a dark academia kind of a book about supernatural beings and a secret society at Yale. I think it's Yale. The society is called Lethe, but I think it's at Yale. And our main character had a pretty bad childhood, and she can see ghosts and actually communicate with them. And this is like Lethe takes her in because of that. And then things kind of go down from there, and the book doesn't necessarily have a good ending. It's kind of a gray ending, I would say, and I enjoyed that quite a bit. I like Alex, which she's called Galaxy Stern, but she goes by Alex. I really like her character. The other characters I'm a little bit iffy on, but the main character is really, really great. So yeah, good reading. I reread this in preparation for reading Hellbent, which is the second one, which I read this month. Then I read a book which I knew I would hate, but I wanted it finally gone. And this is Inverted Worlds by Christopher Priest. Did not like the book, gave it 2 stars, I think. Might have been a 1 star. It is your typical dystopian, the world is ending. There are people who live in the city that gets pulled on rails, and then you have the people who live on the side of the road, more or less, and the women that live in the city don't seem to be able to bear children anymore, or one gender of children, I'm not quite sure anymore. It's been quite some time since I read it. And so the guys also go out and kidnap women or force them to have babies for them, which is like a lovely part of the story. And yeah, then the main part of the story is pretty much like the elders being secretive and not really keeping people in the loop of what is happening. They are pretty much like fleeing from a sun that is going to kill them, and they're running out of resources, and the people in the city don't know that. And then we have our main character, which is like a young guy who gets married off to the girl. They know that they are gonna be married off to one another, but it's still a really strange relationship. He also steps outside the marriage because of said children problem. And yeah, his wife goes kind of stir crazy, and she's like, you know what, I hate that women don't have any choices here. They don't have any abilities to do anything. They get kept in the dark from everything. And so, it goes kind of in the direction of like a revolution type of thing. I just really disliked all of the characters. There was not one character where I was like, oh, I'm interested in your story. So yeah, and then, you know, there's a lot of misogyny, even though the story is about kind of, you know, that it is there, it felt like it wasn't really brought up well enough, in my opinion. So yeah, I really disliked that book, but it was a second try. This one was also a second try, and that is Nevernight by J. Kristoff. I actually bought this, I think, the beginning when I found out about Book Talk or BookTube. I never had TikTok, but I watched the shorts and stuff. I bought this, never finished it. I was like halfway through. I finished it now. I just find it to be boring. I think it's pretty average. It's about Mia Cover, whose parents get killed. She wants to join this assassin school, and so she goes there, and she has a shadow, which, like, she has special abilities, obviously. Like, this is your typical YA female main character with special abilities who's gonna save kind of the world, kind of not. Teen drama coming of age story, which doesn't mean it's a bad story. It's just not what I enjoy reading anymore. I think I would have enjoyed this quite a lot when I was like 15, 16. That kind of a time around. I don't enjoy it anymore. I gave it 3 stars because I can tell it's not a bad story. It's just the characters are just so temperamental, so illogically temperamental, which, like, for a teenager makes sense, but I don't enjoy reading it anymore. So yeah, that wasn't the greatest read, but I knew that as well because it was a second chance. And then we have a book that sadly was in a book box, and I was super excited when I got it. It's Japanese Gothic by Kylie Lee Baker, which also wrote Bad Eater, and I love Bad Eater. But today's the day of distractions. I got a call. Okay, so it is pretty much historical fiction and fiction combined. The historical fiction is about a samurai who has to kind of, she's the last samurai, more or less. Her father's also still alive, and she's kind of angry at him because the historical part plays out at the time where the samurai were put off of their rank. There was a lot of fighting, a lot of dying, and the honor system would have told her dad to actually go out dying, and he didn't. He actually fled the scene and came back to her family, which is her little sister, her middle brother, I think, and then the mother. And so they are keeping onto their lifestyle, but they can't afford it anymore because the samurai aren't allowed to live technically. And so she has to kind of keep track of everything. She tries to defend the family. And then we have our current times where we have a guy who comes back from college to visit his father in Japan and his girlfriend. And he talks about having killed a guy, and he thinks he doesn't know where he put the dead body, and then he also thinks he has his mother's body in a suitcase, which his mother was like abducted when she was on a holiday with him, and they never found her. The father moved on at some point, and she was officially declared dead. And so yeah, he is kind of a little bit off. He takes medication, and his father doesn't know that he has all of those problems. You also don't really get to know if he actually killed somebody in the beginning. So yeah, I don't want to spoil more of the story, but that is pretty much what the book is about. And there's a window in time in the house. It's the same house the samurai lived in, and so they can see each other. And that is the part where the story takes off. Love the idea. I am just not somebody for historical fiction, and I couldn't get into the samurai part. I have to say, I'm not really all that interested in samurais anyway. I think they're cool, but that is the extent of my interest in them. So it just really wasn't the topic for me. I would absolutely recommend the book. I can tell you that it's like a good book. I love the way that Kylie Lee Baker does characters in Bad Eater as well, but in this one as well. Loved the characters. Just couldn't get into the story, so I am giving it 3 stars because I feel really bad giving it less because it's just not my interest, but I got it in a book box, so I technically didn't pick it up myself. I wouldn't have picked it up myself, to be honest, you know, but the horror is done so well. It's such a great book, despite me not liking that aspect of the book, so I would really recommend to read it. I think it's well done, but yeah, it wasn't the book for me, sadly, which, you know, happens. Can't change that I don't find that topic interesting in the slightest, sadly, and I do have to find my horror interesting to actually enjoy it. Now, let's quickly go through all of the romance I read. The first one I've read is called Feral, which is Wicked Night at Slayer Part 1, Part 1 by Stella Rainbow. It is an adjacent series to the Immortal Assassin series, and it is about the nightclub that they own and two people meeting there. One is human, one is a vampire, as always in the series. They fall in love. It's a gay awakening because our character, or like a bi awakening, because our human doesn't know he is actually into men. And yeah, lovely story, 4 stars. Love all of the guys. I'm sad that there isn't a new book in that series because that book is, I think, a couple of years old now, so I'm not sure if the series will be continued. I would love for it to be, but who knows. After that, I read a couple of books in the Demon Debacle series. I read the first one, the third one, and the fourth one. The second one was about a child and a babysitter. I don't do that. I don't enjoy small children in books, so I skipped that book. But yeah, we have My Demon Roommates, which is a 4 guys as a couple, and then we have My Demon Assistant, and then My Demon Neighbor, and they are all about demons coming up from hell searching for their fated mates, and also containing like a demon outbreak. Like, it's an overarching story through all of the books, so it's side story. The romance definitely takes like the main part of the books, but there is an overarching story that goes through all of the books about demons escaping from hell and being used and bringing trouble to the human world. So you have that part of the story, and then we obviously have all of the demons. In the first story, we have 3 demons who move into like this house where one human already lives, who searched for roommates, and they all fall for him. It's a little bit chaotic. Obviously, the humans don't know about demons in the beginning, so you have the aspect of like having to tell the human that there are demons and all of that. It's a lot of fun. Then in My Demon Assistant, we have a demon who, for like his fated mate is his boss, and to get closer to him, like he knows that he's his fated mate before he has the job, and then he gets the job to get closer to his fated mate and show him how good he can take. And yeah, he also really likes the job and he's good at it, so it actually works out in the end. And then we have My Demon Neighbor, which is about a human who is deeply traumatized by somebody and is kind of a shut-in, and he makes his money with art, and then his fated mate moves into the neighboring house, and once he realizes it's his fated mate, he tries to help his human wherever he can and kind of brings him out of his house and makes sure he's safe and taken care of. And that was also really sweet, with a lot of sad moments. Like, there's a lot of like PTSD and, you know, a lot of what comes with trauma. So yeah, that is definitely the saddest one in the series, but they were all really nice. I really liked the demons. They were a lot of fun because they don't know a lot about humanity, so they behave strangely at times and have a lot to learn about how to move like human, behave like human. A good read. Then I also read Ace, which is the 7th book in the King Disciples series. It's a motorcycle series. I have read none of the others because they just didn't sound interesting. Ace is in a motorcycle club that is less into drugs and more into keeping victims of violence safe and rescuing kidnapped people and stuff like that, but nobody knows that really. And he crashes his bike into a fire engine and there he meets, I have forgotten his name. There he meets Cody, and Cody is a firefighter who had a really horrible time with his ex, and he isn't really ready for love, but like Ace is like, you're gonna love me. And the story goes from there. It has a little bit of drama with like the motorcycle club and stuff like that, but both guys are really, really lovely. They work really well together, and I love both of them, so that story worked out really, really well. But yeah, I'm not interested in any of the other guys in the motorcycle club. They didn't sound interesting to me at all. After that, I was in the mood for some bodyguard romance, so I read Hawk, which is Three Bears Tactical #1, which is about Mika and Hawk. Mika is running away from an abusive ex, and he's now lived 2 years in the city he's currently living in, and his ex kind of tracked him down. And the only guy he really knows who's safe is Hawk, who is a bodyguard, and he's also like a personal trainer for like defense tactics and stuff like that. And Mika's actually in a course there, and the only thing he knows to do is go get Hawk, and Hawk will actually help him. Hawk has fallen for him a long time ago, but he never made a move because he kind of realized that Mika has a lot of like baggage that he has no idea, like Hawk has no idea about, and he kind of felt like Mika was like really afraid, and he didn't want to step on his toes, which like a really nice thing to do actually. And yeah, in the course of Hawk protecting Mika, they obviously fall in love and become a couple and get a dog in the end. So yeah, I love that one. I've read the whole series now, and lovely, lovely series. Definitely 4 stars. All of the romances have been 4 stars so far. I forgot to name. Also, Hawk is by James Jackie, and the Demon Debugger series is by Stella Rainbow as well. Then I read Relic by Mia Monroe, which is a vampire supernatural romance that plays out in New Orleans. I gave that one 3 stars. It was really nice. It has to do with a lot of like occult stuff, and here our main character like goes to New Orleans because he felt pulled to go there, and there he meets a vampire in a store called Relic. And it was, in the beginning, I was really like, oh, I don't know, because the consent was kind of questionable at times, but the main character kind of gets a do-over because the vampire lets him forget everything because they got off to such a bad start, and the main character gets hunted down by like feral vampires, and the guy just really also wants to help him, and they get off on the wrong foot, and then he lets him forget all of that, and then they kind of meet again, and from then on out it gets better. It was a really weird beginning, but I did like the characters. Otherwise, just like the beginning, I felt like you could have done the beginning better. That's just my thought to that. Then I read another Mia Monroe, also a vampire romance, which is called Unmasked. That one I really loved. I gave that 4.5 stars. It's about 2 guys. The main guy, who is a vampire now, also Unmasked plays in the same universe as Immortal Assassins as well. And our vampire guy got bullied really, really badly in school, and he moved away at some point, met a vampire, got made into a vampire, and now he's rich and he's pretty, and he wants revenge on everybody who's done him wrong. And so he goes back to his hometown, and he kind of gets revenge in the best way possible. His idea of revenge is just make the whole city really, really thriving and kind of get rid of the bad apples in town and make the town a good town for everybody else. That is his revenge. And the same time he comes back to town, his best friend from school times also comes back into town. They lost touch because his best friend was kind of a popular kid, but he did stick up for him. And he was in love with him when they were younger, but he never told him because obviously he didn't feel like he had a chance with like how beaten down he was. And so they meet back up, and our main character realizes the chemistry is still there. He really wants a relationship, and so he starts slowly build a relationship with him. And then at some point he has to tell him that he's a vampire, and the story goes from there. Lovely story. I absolutely loved it. It was in the same lines as the Immortal Assassins and Feral. I really love that whole universe. All of the vampires are like really, really great. So yeah, if you want a couple of connected stories, I would go for one of those. Then I read 2 books in the Court of God series. I'm pretty sure I also read the first 2, but I don't know if it was in another month. So we're gonna go with the 2 I read this month, which is Double Take and Blown Away by Thomas Willow. No, by Willow Thomas. This is a hockey romance series where we have a group of hockey players all in one team, and they slowly find the guys they love. I gave both books 3 stars. They were lovely, but not really anything special. The third one, Double Take, is about Zeke, and I don't know what the name of the other character is. But they have been best friends. They used to be best friends. They are still best friends. And Zeke, the guy who's not Zeke always has like feelings for Zeke. Zeke moves away for some reason, together with the brother of the main character actually, and they move to another city to go to college, I think, there, and to work there, and then they fall onto hard times because of an assault against the brother, and him not wanting to back down, and then actually losing his job and his apartment. And so they come to our main character and they are like, "We're so sorry, we lost our livelihood. Could we, move in with you just for the time being?" And from there it plays out. There was a little bit of drama between like realizing they have feelings for each other and actually accepting them, and just like the whole getting over the like friendship bump and behaving weirdly, which is why I gave 3 stars. It was a little bit off in some points, but all of the characters were really lovely, so I was okay with it. And then we have the 4th one, which is Blown Away, and that is about the brother of the last character, who's called Benny, now back in town, who works as a stripper. And Benny falls for Chase, who is the hockey guy, and they kind of hit it off at some point. Chase like goes look at him strip and tells him like if he likes the routines and stuff. It's kind of like that. They talk a lot, they hang out a lot, and then they just kind of fall into it. I gave this one 3 stars as well. The story was lovely, but really shallow for a romance, like even shallow for a romance. But it was still lovely. I still really liked the characters. It's just there was really little story to begin. But to be honest, I don't always need a good story in a romance, so I was fine with it because I love the characters. And I love that one of them was like a stripper and the other one didn't really have a problem with that. Love when it comes to representation like that, like letting people do their job and continue to do their job even though they are in a relationship. I really liked it, so I was fine with that. Then I read a couple of books in the Harmony of Hearts series by Ariella Zoel. This is a series about bandmates and friends who are also in the music business and them all finding their partners. I think I read all of them, but in May I read the first one, the third one, and the fourth one. I did not read them in order. The first one is Play by Heart about Jason, which is the singer of he is pretty much a solo artist, but his friends are his band, so he always has the same band, which are his friends. And he falls in love with Orion, and Ryan is like a curator at the local university museum, and he's like a really shy and unassuming person, and he can't really fathom that somebody like Jason, like a big star, falls in love with him. And the story goes from there. It's really lovely. They have lovely family, lovely friends, and everybody roots for them. And it's really cute. The books are all a lot about like insecurities when it comes to being with somebody more famous, which I felt worked out really well. And then the third one is Change His Tune, which is about Ferris and Tiago. Both of them are in the band. One of the is, I think, the bassist, and the other one is the drummer, I think. They both are constantly flirting, but they are best friends, so it's like, oh, it's joke flirting, but they do actually both have feelings for the other. They just never talked about it because, friendship and such, and they actually like find together in the book. It has a little bit of like a push from somebody who's in one of the other books, who's like, is like, oh, you could play up your flirtations, you know, and get more famous because of it. And they're like, okay, let's do that. And then because they are more together and actively working on the flirtations and like kind of like just like getting closer together, they actually like spark. And yeah, they're really cute. It's nice in a relationship because they know each other so well already, so it's just an added part of the relationship on top of the friendship already, which worked really, really well for me. Also 3 stars. And then we have the 4th one, which is called Music to His Ears. And that is about Sel and Haverford. One of them is a lawyer, but he grew up with the guys. And Sel is the last one in the group of the music guys. Yeah, I think he's the last one in the band. And they are forced to live together. Sel comes home from tour early because Jason gets sick. And the guy he rooms with actually sublet his room to Haverford because Haverford needed to move out of his house whilst they're doing the renovations. And because they thought Sel wasn't there, it wasn't a problem. And then when they come back, Haverford refuses to move out. He's the lawyer and he, you know, he's stubborn. But Sel is also stubborn, and then so they are forced to share a bed, and they kind of really dislike each other. But it's more of a forced dislike on both sides. They are like disliking the other one because the other one refuses to move out, not because they actually dislike the person in itself. It's more the situation. And so they get to know each other because of the forced proximity, and because of that they then slowly start to warm up to each other and actually realize, you know what, I really like the guy. And because they already share a bed, it's pretty easy to fall into a relationship from there. Cute guys, I like them. That is like an enemies to lovers I can kind of get behind, because they weren't really enemies in the first place. Then I read the Demon Bound series book 1, which is called Wreaking Havoc. This is a series about humans who belong to like a mafia family, accidentally summoning demons and being bound to those demons, and the demons realizing the guys who summoned them are actually their fated mates. And it's really cute. It's a really cute series, because in the first book our main character gets hurt because his brother is like the main guy of the mafia family who took over from his father, and Sasha actually doesn't really want to have anything to do with the whole mafia business, but to get to the brother they actually stab him, and so he has to hide. And while in hiding he finds the book to summon demons, and he accidentally summons a demon because he thinks the symbol is so pretty, and he paints it with nail polish, and a little bit of blood gets on it because he is kind of, how to say that in English? In German it would be tollpatschig. Maybe I'm just gonna put the word here. But yeah, so he accidentally summons the demon, and the demon falls in love with him and wants to prove to him that he can be his partner and his protector, and he can vanquish all of his enemies. And that is what they do. And the demon's called Kai. And he's pretty attractive. In both forms. They have like a demon form and a normal form. Yeah, 4 stars for that series. I continued with that this month, so I can tell you it's a great series. And then I went back from the supernatural stuff back to more normal, slightly kinky books, and that is the Love on Tap Fragile Hearts series. And I read the first 3 books in that series. Wanted Patient Daddy, Wanted Gentle Daddy, and Wanted Understanding Daddy. It's like daddy boy kink kind of. Can you even call that a kink if it's just calling the other dad and one being slightly more protective than the other one? I don't know. I don't have any experience with that. But the books are by Sammy C, and I really liked them. I gave them all 3.5 stars. It's pretty much a series about the boys. They all work at the tavern, and they all have kind of a pretty like sad and bad backstory, and they decide like, we need partners. And so one of them, who is the main character in the second book, Toby, he's like, you know what, let's do a wanted sign in the tavern because it's known to be a safe space for like queer people and people from like domestic violence or general violence situations. So he's like, let's do a wanted poster. And then all of them find a daddy. The thing is, the guy that the daddy is searched for, he doesn't get any say in the decision. The other ones are actually vetting the guys that want to get to know the other one. And so we have the first one, the main character has Crohn's disease, and he really suffers because of that, and he kind of needs somebody who's like learning to cope with his disability and helps him live a nicer life. And he actually gets together with his ex-boss that he had before he got to the tavern, and they have never seen each other. They just heard each other because he worked remote. And then once they realize, oh my god, I know you already, they kind of fall into this like really nice relationship. And yeah, the daddy in that situation learns a lot about his illness and what he can do and how he can help and stuff like that. It's like a really sickly sweet romance. The second one, we have Toby, who is like the guy that had the idea with the wanted posters, and he got told by his family that he's too much and he's too loud and he's annoying and nobody wants him around. He's like pretty beaten down. And he then meets Samuel, who is like super patient and is really angry at the way that his family treated Toby. And yeah, they fall in love. I think the daddies are also all more or less friends, so it's like a really like two friend groups kind of getting together. And then we have the third one, which is the understanding daddy, and that is about Dylan, who got into like a domestic violence situation when his mother married a really bad guy, got thrown out of his home, or like left his home to like escape, and he left behind his best friend Brett, who he had feelings for, but he never told him because he was afraid of like his home situation. And they meet again in the tavern. Brett comes around, they're like, oh my god, we know each other. And Dylan is like, oh my god, I don't want to talk to him. I don't want to have to tell him why I like just up and left back then. And then they slowly find back together. It was really sweet. So yeah, that is a series of like really like the backstories are sad, but the romance and the way the story plays out is pretty like sickly sweet, which I do really love in a romance. And yeah, that is all of the romance I read in May and all of the books in general. So romance wise, I had really great reads. Physical reading wise, it was not as great, sadly. But yeah, we are through all of the books. It's still so much each month. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've read any of these books, leave your opinion of them down below. If you want to share what you've read in May, even though it is now already nearly a month late, please do that as well. I hope it's fine that I'm still doing this video even though it's so late. And yeah, hopefully I can keep up with a better schedule now. But we have to see. Like, work and life is just crazy at the moment, so I have to do what I can. And this is a hobby, and so I can only do it when I have the time to do it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I will see you in the next video. Bye!